Okay, thanks everyone for coming for the Wednesday night Halacha and Chassidus shir. So we'll start as always with 30 minutes of Halacha. Or we try to go for it. Used to be 15 minutes of Halacha, but it was always too interesting. So it grew to half an hour of Halacha, which meant the Chassidus got shorter. But
it's all Torah.
It's all Torah. And now Chassidus and Halacha, they're both on equal. They both get half an hour. We also have Chassidus Shabbos morning. So, okay. So the topic is Mishloach Manos Refusal. What happens if a person, you're a good person and you decide I'm going to bring Chaim Yankel some Mishloach Manos, and you go to his house and he's like, either he says to you, I don't want it, or maybe he says, you don't have to give it to me. It's like you give it to you. It's as if I was makabelit. Did you perform the mitzvah? We're not talking about like checking a checklist of like, yeah, I did it. It's not about a checklist, but the question is a practical question. Did you do the mitzvah? If yes, great. If no, well, you better go find someone else to do the mitzvah, right? That's what we're going to discuss tonight. And tonight's shir is sponsored Le'ilu Nishmas Shimon ben Meir, whose yahrzeit is tonight, Yud Gimel Adar. The Shama should have an aliyah. So let's take a look. We're going to start with something we've never done in our halacha class before. We're going to start with psukim from Nach, from the book of Nechemiah. Now, the context here is this is actually talking about Rosh Hashanah, and that's going to be a little bit of interesting note over here. It's the 8th chapter of Nechemiah, psukim Yud Aleph Yud Beis. Go eat fat foods and drink sweet drinks. V'shilchu monos. You hear that word? Monos, shalach monos. Send monos. What are monos? Portions. La'ein nochin lo, to whoever has nothing. Why? Ki kodesh hayom ladunenu. Because the day is holy. The holy day for Hashem. Again, it's talking about Rosh Hashanah. I think it's one or two psukim before. I forget. I looked it up. One or two psukim before, Rashi points out that this took place on Rosh Hashanah. It's a holy day. And the pasuk continues that the joy of the Lord is your strength. HaLevi, and the Levim quieted everyone. They said, Hasu, quiet, hush. Today's holy. Don't be sad. So we get the point over here, right? It's a happy day. Don't be sad. Rejoice, celebrate. Send monos to your friends. Send packages, send portions to your friends. What happened? Everyone went, okay, good, we'll do it. We will go eat and we will go drink. And they sent portions. And they rejoiced with a great, sounds a little bit like Purim. Rejoiced with a great simcha. They understood the words that they informed them of. So we see from here that the concept of sending Mishloach Manos to people was not necessarily related to Purim, but it was an expression in general of simcha, of camaraderie, of friendship, of joy and celebration. What would you do on a happy? Which is interesting, by the way. Again, it's talking about Rosh Hashanah, which is interesting because we don't usually think of Rosh Hashanah as a happy day. It's Yom Hadin. It's a day of judgment. We don't usually think of it as a happy day. Of course, mitzvah gedolah lias b'simcha tamid. One should always be b'simcha, as the Rambam writes in at least two places. We spoke about one of them last week. But in any event, it seems that there was a minhag, some type of practice that you should send monos in celebration of special days, not necessarily connected to Purim.
Was there like a thing like Manos Chitim by Pesach, but also by any holiday?
That's something else. The Rebbe spoke about Manos Chitim a lot, how the minhag had fallen away, and the Rebbe very much wanted to make sure that this minhag of giving money to people, literally wheat money, right? Manos Chitim, money for the wheat, meaning for the matzah. That's what you had to buy. What else did you have to buy for Pesach? I mean, chickens, you probably owned the chicken. You had whatever, but you had to get the matzah. Now everything counts as mois chitin, right? Because matzah and their wine and all their other supplies for tzedakah. But this is not tzedakah per se. Mm-hmm. This is monos. These are portions of food and drink that they're sending to their friends in celebration of the joyous occasions. So again, not necessarily related to Purim. So Purim, it seems, has a separate obligation of Mishloach Manos. By a regular day, at least in the times of Nechemiah, it seems that it was just a natural expression of simcha. If I'm happy, what am I going to do? I'm going to see you. Hey, shalom aleichem. Here you go. Here's a nice challah. Here's a nice bottle of wine. I'm going to, as a natural expression of joy on a happy day, I'm going to give you something, a package, a portion. But Purim, it's not just a natural expression of the day, it's an actual mitzvah to specifically give Mishloach Manos on Purim. Okay, there, we learned some nach. Rambam. Let's take a look at the Rambam. Hilchos Megillah, chapter 2, Halacha 15, Halacha Tesvav Ketzad, and this halacha is the subject of a fair bit of conversation amongst the Meforshim. Ketzad Choiva Seuda Zu. What is the nature of the Seuda? What is our choiva? What is our obligation for the meal of Purim? What do we have to do? Simple. Shayochel basar, eat meat. Even by the way, even this year that Purim is a Friday, and really you're supposed to have the Seuda before Chatzos. You don't have to eat meat, but technically it's probably better to have meat by the Seuda on Purim. Shayochel basar, eat meat. V'sakin Seuda noah kefiyah shertim so they make a nice geshmaka feast, attractive, beautiful feast, based on each person according to their means. Should drink wine until you become intoxicated and fall asleep in your state of drunkenness. That's a whole other topic in and of itself. We're not going to talk about tonight. And likewise, interesting. Likewise, what? What's v'chein? The Rambam is v'chein, and likewise. Likewise, what? Think about it. A person's obligated to shloyach shtei manos. You got to send 2 portions of meat, or 2 other types of cooked dishes, or 2 other types of foods to your friend. Shenamar mishloach manos ish l'rei, as the pasuk says in the Megillah, mishloach manos ish l'rei ehu, meaning shtei manos leish echad. Ish l'rei ehu. It's manos in the plural. Rei ehu is just 1 person. So you have to send 2 portions to 1 person, minimum. Could do more. As the Rambam says, the more you send, the more mishloach manos you send, the better. The better. Praiseworthy. Why? What if you don't have mishloach manos to send? You can't afford to go to seasons. Who can't afford seasons anyway? And you can't afford to buy the necessary piece of meat or whatever it is that you want to give your friend for Purim. V'im ein loy. If you don't have, no problem. What are you going to do on Purim? You're going to be at a Purim Suda. What are you going to have in front of you at a Purim Suda? A plate. Going to be a piece of meat on it, maybe a potato even, something like that. So v'im ein machlif in chaver, right? There's a Gemara on this. We're going to come back to this later. Switch plates with your buddy, whoever's next. Just switch your plates. I'll give you my plate, you give me your plate. That's mishloach manos. I just gave you manos, portions. That is the mitzvah, mishloach manos. And that indeed is a fulfillment. Again, it's a Gemara. That is a fulfillment of the mitzvah, mishloach manos. The Rambam. Good. We always like to quote the Rambam. We don't always get to the Rambam, but when we do, it's always a happy occasion to quote the Rambam. Let's take a look now. Now, the question is like this. Why? What are the reasons? Why do we give mishloach manos? I know. The answer is because it says the pasuk. Pasuk says to give mishloach manos, so that's why we give. Okay, good. No. After that, what are the reasons for mishloach manos? What are we accomplishing? What is the purpose of the mitzvah?
Is not the purpose. The other guy gets food, so he has to eat the Suda.
Oh, good. So one answer to this question is we're giving food not randomly, but in order that I want to make sure that Baruch has what he needs for the Purim Suda. So therefore, I'm giving him food, so he should have what he needs for the Purim Suda. So I told this to my son Zalmi today, and he says, according to that, why would you give candy? And I said, good question. But you could eat candy at a Suda too, he tells me. Okay, maybe if you're 10, you could.
Maybe to give joy to someone. If they
You're saying something different than Nir or the same as Nir?
Different.
Different. to bring joy to someone else.
Some joy.
Okay.
It's Purim.
Okay, good. Or let me phrase it in slightly different terms. Camaraderie, friendship. Let's take a look inside. Let's take a look first at the Terumas haDeshen. Terumas haDeshen is a very, very important sefer. It doesn't really need me to say that. Yisrael Isserlin, he was born in 1390, died in 1460 in Austria. The sefer he wrote that is most well known for is called Terumas haDeshen, which is referring to the cleaning out of the ashes, the leftover ashes from burning of the Mizbeach and so forth in the Beis HaMikdash. Deshen, which means the ashes, is Gematria 354. And in his sefer of Terumas haDeshen, there are 354 tshuvos. They are questions, halachic questions, and his answers. And the Shach writes that actually Terumas haDeshen made up his own questions, and they weren't real questions. But he made up the questions, then he wrote the answers to them. What that would mean, practically speaking, is that the question is meduyok. The question is extremely precise because he himself wrote the question. So he's answering that specific question. So he built it up in that way, so to speak. However, later, I'm not sure exactly the source. Later, it came out he didn't necessarily write his own questions. They were actually real questions. They found some other source that they were real questions. Either way, the Terumas haDeshen is one of the major sources for the Rambam. For their line on the Shulchan Aruch, so, in Shulchan Aruch. So anyway, Shaila Kufir Aleph, Bnei Adam Hasholchim Lechavereim Bepurim Chalukim Usadinim B'Chai Gavna. If a person sends their buddy on Purim, a chaluk. What's a chaluk? It's a robe. It's a very Israeli. In modern day Israel, you have like a chaluk. It's a robe, like a house robe. Usadinim, or sheets, the Chai Gavna and the like. Yotzim Yidei Mishloach Manos Oilav, do they fulfill the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos or not?
This is not that. She's different. Oh, thank you.
I thought it was not.
Oh, yeah. I got two.
Yeah, got that one. So that's the question.
Mr. Shalmanis.
Tshuva. Yerah, it seems, he says. The Ein Yotzim Behen. No. Sorry, if you send clothing to your body, a robe, I don't care how nice the robe is, etc. No, you're not yotzei mitzvah Mishloach Manos. Why? The nida tam the Mishloach Manos who? It seems that the reason for Mishloach Manos is, so this is the Terumas haDeshen, his reason, who's kadesha yehel chol echad dai v'sofik l'kaim v'sipek l'kaim asuda, that they should have sufficient resources, sufficient means to have their suda. The robe doesn't help them have a suda. Maybe they're going to wear the robe. It doesn't help with the suda. Kedina, according to Halacha, as the Gemara says, Sech Megillah, the Abai bar Ovi, the Abai the son of Ovi, the Rav Chanina bar Ovi, Havu Mechalfin Sudosayu Bahadadi. What do? They switch their seudas one with the other, like we saw in the Rambam, which says if you don't have Mishloach Manos, just switch plates with the guy next to you. So that's what Abai bar Ovin and Rav Chanina bar Ovin actually did, the Gemara tells us. They switched their meals. And by doing that, V'nofki b'hochi Mishloach Manos. And by doing that, V'nofki, they went out, meaning they were Yotzi. They fulfilled the mitzvah Mishloach Manos by doing that. So what do you see from this Gemara, says the Terumas haDeshen? It's a clear proof that Mishloach Manos is about having food for the Suda. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So we can infer from this story in the Gemara that Abai bar Ovin and Rav Chanina bar Ovin switched plates with each other. That therefore the reason for Mishloach Manos is not something random. It's I want to make sure you have food for the Suda. Direct connection to the Suda. Furthermore, it seems he says, anytime we use the word monos, which are translating as portions, says the Terumas haDeshen, anytime that word appears, think back to Nechemiah, the book of Nechemiah we started with, it means food or drink. It doesn't mean clothing or something else. It means food or drink. And he says that if you look carefully in the Rambam, you'll see this too. Also, Shekosaf, he writes, a person is obligated to send, what he's obligated to send, Shtei monos shel basar. He spells it out for you. 2 portions of what? Of meat. Meaning not 2 portions of robes, 2 portions of meat. Oy shtimini tavshil, or 2 types of cooked dishes. He's mamish spelling it out for you. Monois equals food. Oishtei or two other types of food. It's clear in the Rambam, says the Terumas haDeshen. Monois equals food. And from the Gemara, that they switch their meals. The whole aim of Mishloach Manos, according to the Terumas haDeshen, is to have food for the meal. And he adds a point, drinking counts as eating. So they give drinks too. However, when it comes to Matanas Lev Yoinim, which is the next halacha in the Rambam that we did not learn, he writes a little bit differently. By Matanas Lev Yoinim, he writes, Kosav Mo'ois, he writes, what should you give for Matanas Lev Yoinim, gifts to the poor? What do you give? Money. Or, says the Rambam, Oy mine maicholim, or food, but not drink. Alma de Gabi Mishloach Manos Sofer Dafka Midei de Michli. Sorry, it could be drink. So we infer from here, we see that by Mishloach Manos,
Not clothes.
huh?
Not clothes.
Not clothes.
Not robes.
Specifically food. That's the Terumas haDeshen. Okay, good. Yeah. Proofs are good. You like it. Next source, the Manos HaLevi. Manos HaLevi. Notice the first name of the book, first word in the name of the book. Manos HaLevi. The portion of the Levi. Who was this Levi? Reb Shlomo Alkabetz. Who was Reb Shlomo Alkabetz? Most famous for writing L'chadoidi. Right? The first letter of the words of L'chadoidi, right? Spells out Shlomo HaLevi. Worked his name into it. So he was born in 1505 in Salonika, Greece, died 1584, and is buried in Tzfas. If you've been to the famous cemetery in Tzfas, where the Beis Yosef is buried, and the Alshich, they're all at the same time, right? Imagine Beis Yosef, Alshich, the Arizal. The Arizal was in the local Makub. The Beis Yosef was the Rav. The Moshe Alshich was the Darshan. He gave the drush in Shul on Shabbos. And Shlomo Alkabetz, I guess, was the poet. I guess he was the Makubal. He wrote the L'chadoidi. They all went out, right? That was the tradition of the Mekubalim, Kabbalah Shabbos, going out to the fields. That was in Tzfas. That was this time with the Manos HaLevi, with Shlomo Alkabetz.
It was good times.
Can you imagine what it was like? So he says as follows. Oid Hoisifu in the middle. Oid Hoisifu Prozim al Bnei Shushan Mishloach Manos. So they had something called Mishloach Manos. What is Mishloach Manos all about? Says the Manos HaLevi of Shlomo Alkabetz. Ki ze reimez ki hem ba'aguda achas. This alludes to the fact that we are bound together. We're close knit. Uva ahava, uva achva. We are close knit. We are beloved, cherished to each other. We're in a state of unity. Hefech masha omar tzoyrer mefuzer mefoyer, which is exactly what the tzoyrer said. Who's the tzoyrer? Tzoyrer you translate as what's a good translation? The evil guy, basically, the afflictor. I don't know what the best translation is. Haman. What does he say about us? The Jewish people are mefuzer mefoyer. They're scattered all over the place. So we say, no, we're not scattered all over the place. We're all together. And the proof is, I'm giving you portions. I'm giving you, you're giving me. We're all giving each other. What are we giving each other? Food.
No.
And now look again at the Manos HaLevi in the next page. We are ki'ish echad. We are like one unit, one person. Everyone, we're all gathering together, one with our friends. The exact opposite of what the ish tzar v'oyev, our enemy, Haman Yimach Shemoy, wanted to accomplish in Miyah, Am Echad Mefuzar, that he called us Am Echad Mefuzar. We are people scattered all over. There's no unity. So to show the opposite of that, we give Mishloach Manos. So Shlomo Alkabetz held that you could give anything that generates a feeling of aguda achas, ahava ve'achva, anything that generates feelings of closeness, feelings of friendship, feelings of camaraderie, you can give. You don't have to give food. And Reb Shlomo Alkabetz is also l'shitase. He goes according to his shita. Meaning, if you read the introduction to Manos HaLevi, to the Sofer, I have it next door. I double-checked before this year just to make sure it wasn't just my memory. In the introduction to Manos HaLevi, he writes that I wrote this book and gave it as Mishloach Manos to my father-in-law. Manos HaLevi is a pirush on Megillas Esther. So also the Shitase, he went according to his Shita. anything that you give that will generate friendship and camaraderie, Gishmak. That's Mishloach Manos.
We don't know that.
So then even
Huh?
We don't know that.
I don't know if we don't hold that way.
Can we hold that way?
Let's continue. We'll see how we pass it, but I don't think any of us want to ignore Shlomo Alkabetz. So that brings us to our question for today. What if the intended recipient refuses? Let's take a look at Shulchan Aruch. It's a little bit small. Starts on the right side, and then goes to the left side. Dalet. This is in Hilchas Purim, obviously. Sif Dalet Chayav l'shlech l'chaveiro shtei monos basar. Just like the Rambam said, you're obligated to send to your friend 2 pieces of meat, 2 types of meat, 2 portions of meat. Oy shel mine oichlim, or other types of food. Shenemar, as the verse says in Mishloach Manos Refusal, coming to teach us shtei monos leish echad, 2 portions to 1 person. V'chol amar b'lishleach l'reim meshubach. Where's the quoting from there? Rambam. The Beis Yosef, the Mechaber, is always quoting from the Rambam. But we saw the Rambam already. So the more you give, Mishloach Manos, the better. V'mein loy. If you don't have, what do? We know, we learned the Rambam already. The Rambam himself obviously doesn't make it up, quoting from the Gemara. Machlivim chaveiro. Switch with your body. Zeh shalech lazeh sudasei. V'zeh shalech lazeh sudasei. Switch. Kedei l'kayim u'mishloach manos yisraeyu. Very familiar to us already. This is the Mechaber. This is the Shulchan Aruch says this. Very familiar. Hago says the Ramah. V'yesh l'shleich manos b'yoyim v'olei b'layla. Supposed to do in the daytime, not at nighttime. V'im sholeach. Now we go to the next little column over there. V'im sholeach manos l're'eu. If you send monos, portions, you send Mishloach Manos, a nice little package of a challah and a wine or whatever, candy if you're 10 years old, whatever else you put in there. And that guy who you deliver it to, and he says, no, I don't want it for whatever reason. Or he says, no, it's okay. It's okay. I saw one of the, I don't have it on the page here, one of the, I don't remember where it was, he forgives it, means that he says, it's as if I was makabel. He's not rejecting you necessarily. He's just saying, no, it's okay. I consider it as if you gave it. Does that count? And again, count is not about checking the boxes. Count is I have to know practically, do I need to give Mishloach Manos to someone else who will accept it? Or no, he didn't accept it, but you don't have to accept it. The mitzvah on me to give or the mitzvah on the person to receive. So it says that I'm Paskins that I'm lo yotza. No mitzvah. Didn't do it. We'll just read the next part of the Ramah. Also, it's important as well. Not connected to our question directly, but the isha tishlach leisha, the ish leish. A woman should send to a woman. A man should send to a man.
I'm sorry. Where does it say he doesn't
Yeah.
lo yatsa?
It says-
It's lo with a vav.
So, yeah, it's like to him, it's Machalo Yatza.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Thank you.
Kosher is there?
I just made up my own Ksiv Kri. You can't do that. Thank you very much, Nir. Thank you.
Private property? No, trespassing.
Okay, yes. Yotza. Yes, you did the mitzvah. I'm sorry, guys. Yotza. Thank you, Nir. Yotza. You did the mitzvah, says the Ramah. And a woman should give to a woman. Let's see, I skipped the whole line. A woman's obligated just like a man in Mishloach Manos and Matanas Lavion. Why is she obligated? It's a mitzvah to say Shazman Grama. It's a positive commandment that's time bound. Why did you have to do these mitzvahs? The Gemara says, they were part of the miracle. Not only were they part of the miracle, we call it Megillas Esther, not Megillas Mordechai. Even though the Rebbe explains, even though Esther only did what Mordechai told her to do, but Tachlis, who got the job done? Esther got the job done. So Maisa Hu Ikir, the main thing is the action, who actually does it. So therefore we call it Megillas Esther, not Megillas Mordechai. Even Mordechai was the Rebbe. No, Megillas Esther. Okay, so a woman is obligated, just like a man. V'isha tishlach leisha, v'ish leish. A woman should send to a woman, a man should send to a man. That's just sneers. Like Hemshech. Not the opposite. Why? Fascinating. Not the topic for tonight. A man should not come to send to a widow, and now it's a shaila. Maybe he just betrothed her by giving her a gift. It's an unusual way to betroth someone with Mishloach Manos, but it just has to be shava pruta. So the Gemara says, right? Kesed. But by giving money, there's no chashash of this. Okay. Anyway, that's not the point over here. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam says that if you give to someone Mishloach Manos and they don't accept it, that is still the mitzvah. You don't need to find someone else to give Mishloach Manos to. However, comes the Pri Chadash, who's generally speaking printed at the back of the Shulchan Aruch, generally speaking. The Pri Chadash is Chizkiah di Silva, 1659 to 1698, Livorno, Italy. When he was 20, he moved there to Yerushalayim, and it was a Rav, a Chashiv Rav, and I think that's when he started to write the Pri Chadash. And then they sent him to Egypt, to Europe to fundraise. He was in Amsterdam. I think they asked him to become a Rav in Amsterdam. He said no. And he made his way back to Eretz Yisrael through Egypt. And he writes, there's a whole shaila in Halacha. Are you allowed to eat or drink anything after the Dalet Toises, right? After Afikonim, at the end of the Seder, right? You're not supposed to eat or drink after the end of the Seder. Shaila is, you could drink water. So here, the Pri Chadash writes, you could drink coffee. Because he writes something like, that it's something like it's impossible to be straight-minded without coffee in Egypt. Something like this he writes. I don't remember exactly, but okay. The Pri Chadash writes, this that the Rama writes. That if you send manos, you send Mishloach Manos to your friend, and he does not accept, or the guy says it's okay, Yotza, the Rama said it's good, you fulfill the mitzvah. Fact the Pri Chadash Tema, why? How? Where does the Rama get such halacha from? Why should you fulfill the mitzvah if the guy doesn't even accept your Mishloach Manos? What mitzvah did you do? The pasuk says Mishloach Manos ish l're'ehu. You didn't do that. So the Pri Chadash argues on the Rama. So it's a machlekes. The Rama says you got the mitzvah, you did the mitzvah. Pri Chadash says you did not do the mitzvah. Comes along the Chasam Sofer. Trials of Chuvas Chasam Sofer. Moshe Schreiber, 1762 to 1839, Germany, became the Rav famously in Pressburg, which was today Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia. So he says as follows. V'hine re'isi bazet base timing. Two reasons for Mishloach Manos. But Terumas haDeshen, oh, that sounds familiar. Siman Kuf Yud Aleph. The Terumas haDeshen says, Kosav Kadeshiyah. What does this say? I can't even remember what that says. Shia haroya, bad print, eh? Shia haroya labali smochis. You should see simcha, I guess, for the people. There should be simchas. That doesn't make any sense. Am I reading it wrong? Oh yeah. Shia haroya labali smochis. That a bal simcha should see to it. Maybe I don't have enough for my suda. That's the Terumas haDeshen, right? So therefore, so therefore, your buddy, you're going to help me out. You're going to give me food for my suda. That's the reason of the Terumas haDeshen, to have food for the suda. And even if even if not, what do you mean? I don't have for my suda. I'm rich. I have plenty of bottles of wine. I have cuts of meat, and I have everything I need. You don't need to give me anything for my suda. I have what I need. Says the Chasam Sofer, no, even still give to that person too. A rich person as well. Why? Interesting. They call Mokim Tiknu Kach. They established to give Mishloach Manos even to a wealthy person. That someone who doesn't have should not be embarrassed. Because if we're only giving to the people that don't have, now we know who's poor. Now we anyway know who's poor, but we're calling attention to the poor. Like the end of the Martinus, which is I think talking about. I didn't double check it, but I'm pretty sure Chavav is about when the women would go out to the fields and they would say Bocher Sonai Necha. They would try to get a shidduch on those days, right? They would wear white clothing, and they would lend to others who didn't have. That way, everyone borrowed, so no one would be embarrassed if they were the only one borrowing. Everyone borrowed nice clothing. Okay. Should not allow to say no, I don't want the Mishloach Manos. We say you give to everybody. Rich people, poor people give to everybody. So that's the reason of Terumas haDeshen. But the Manos HaLevi says something else. Hashem Reish. I'm not sure what the Reish is, what the base is over there. Laharbois hasholom v'hareus. The purpose of Mishloach Manos is to generate and increase the friendship and the camaraderie. Totally different reason, as we saw before. So the Chasam says these are the two reasons that I'm aware of. Two reasons. Terumas haDeshen should have food for the Suda. Manos HaLevi, camaraderie. Hemshech. What does this say? Mirgilosay. Yeah. Hemshech. Mirgilosay shalatzar shomer mefuzim afayra. Like the Manos HaLevi explained, the opposite of what Haman wanted to accomplish. Haman wanted us to be separate, to be separate. Haman was trying to say, look, these people, they're one nation, they're Am Echad, they're one nation, but look how they're scattered, they're arguing, they're fighting, etc. That's what Haman was trying to accomplish. So therefore, you could say that if you send Mishloach Manos to someone, you've already demonstrated that I care for you, I love you, I'm remembering you. Like, right, when someone brings you Mishloach Manos, you say, oh, you thought of me? You remembered me? Oh, thank you. Oh, you feel good. Oh, wow, you thought I was on your list. Right? So if you deliver Mishloach Manos to someone, you've already, before they reach out their hand and accept it or don't accept it, you've already shown your chiba for them. You made it on my list. I care about you. You've already demonstrated that. Even though the guy says, no, I don't want it, doesn't matter. You fulfilled your obligation already. That's according to the reason of Manos HaLevi. But Yafa Kosav Pri Chadash. So therefore what we see is that the Ramah who says Yotza is going according to Manos HaLevi. Did I get it right?
But he's not only going for the Mount Plain. He also agrees with the Bet Yosef. He's just saying, he also agrees with the Terumas haDeshen. He's saying, by the way, if that happened, you're also good.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, because it's both reasons, you're Yotze if that happens.
Exactly. So the Ramah goes according to one of the reasons. The Pri Chadash, who says, Minayin law. Where'd you get that from that you're Yotze? Why should you be Yotze? You have to give him food for his meal. That's the Terumas haDeshen.
So the dropping off the egg at somebody's house when they're not home.
I saw Gishmak about this. That it depends on a few things. First, there's a concept in Halacha called Kinyan Chotzer. Kinyan Chotzer, it means that even right. There's different ways to make a kinyan on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pick it up is the everyone knows the hagboha. Pick it up. That's the common way. Meshicha, to pull something, or picking up really is the kinyan sudar. That's okay, whatever. Different ways to make a kinyan on something, right? To acquire it. One way is a kinyan chotzer. Kinyan chotzer means that I didn't get it, my courtyard got it. And the courtyard, halachically, to some extent, is considered an extension of me. It's like it says in Kabbalah that the person's yechida, the core of their neshama, is mispashit dalad amos around the person. It's like around the person dalad amos. That's why there's all halachas related to the halachas by gittin as well. Does the woman have to actually take the get in her hand, or could be in her chotzer, could it be within range within dalad amos of her? All sorts of halachas. And far from knowledgeable in these halachas. So if you deliver Shalach Manos to someone's chotzer, you drop it off at the front door. So if it's on Purim, remember the Ramah said, deliver Shalach Manos by day, not by night. So it has to be Purim day, number one. And number two, you're supposed to notify the person. And number three, it has to be a chotzer mishtameres. You can't have a porch pirate come and steal. They could steal it. So it has to be that it's somehow protected, that it's actually going to stay there. And then you're yotze the mitzvah. Even if he didn't actually pick it, he can pick it up later that night. It was already koine it on Purim. Meaning, if he picks it up after 3 stars are out, Motzei Purim, and technically Purim is over, but he was koine it already Purim day. That's what it says. Let's look now. So we have the Ramah says Yotza. Pri Chadash says no. Chasam Sofer explains they're just going according to the different reasons, the reason of the Terumas haDeshen and the Manos HaLevi. Comes the Mishnah Berurah. Chavdal Yotza. The Pri Chodesh Choylek Al Zeh calls the Pri Chodesh. Now we see where the Mishnah Berurah, where did he get his stuff from? Mishnah Berurah. The Pri Chodesh argues with the Ramah, says, no, you're not Yotza. V'chein Chasam Sofer b'sim Kuf Tzadik Vala mitam Al Zeh. He answers it. Did I miss it? No. I thought there was more than that. Okay. Maybe I read something else somewhere else. Okay. In any event, Lamaisa, the best thing would be, Lamaisa is to be machmer according to both opinions. And if someone doesn't want your Mishloach Manos for some reason, find someone else to give to. Even though you could say, what do you mean? The Rambam says clearly. The Rambam says clearly, Yotzi. Okay, good. You have what to rely on. The Rambam says Yotzi, but the Pri Chodesh is chaylik. He argues, and so that's it. Questions, comments?
So your question at the end, what about
Yeah.
anonymous Mishloach Manos?
No.
So according to Manos HaLevi, you didn't accomplish anything, right? Because there's no friendship being. The guy has a suda, he has food, so according to Terumas haDeshen, you're good.
Yeah.
Right.
Meaning, if it's anonymous, who cares? Tachlis. Now I have challah and wine for my suda. Who cares who gave it to me? That's not the point, according to Terumas haDeshen, right? But according to Manos HaLevi, exactly what you said. There's no friendship. If I don't know who gave me the gift, then there's no camaraderie generated from that.
Just one more
Sure,
thing.
that would be, yeah.
You said before, what was it, the chen and the Rambam?
Oh, yeah, no?
Could that be like, first he says you have to make a suda, you have to have a suda. Therefore, you have to give food to people, so that's accomplished.
I think mashma from the Rambam exactly the reason of the Terumas haDeshen, or rather from the Terumas haDeshen
We
who
understand.
came after the Rambam. That it seems from the Rambam that's right, and the Terumas haDeshen brings the Rambam.
Right.
Yeah, and look at the next halacha. Halacha Tazayin. That's a separate mitzvah. Separate mitzvah of Matanas Lev. Nothing to do with the Suda. Seemingly. Okay. I have a little bit of Chassidus now. I wasn't sure what we should do. It's already see the halacha portion always takes a long time. I felt like I was rushing, like going very quickly. But so I wasn't sure what to do for Chassidus tonight. So I just went with the Hashgacha Pratis, which was that I had the Sefer on my desk because I had looked up something in it, Parshas Yisrael, and it didn't make it off my desk since Parshas Yisrael. And then there was a bookmark in it. I opened it up, and I opened the bookmark, and it said the word Purim. So, okay. Because I think next week probably we'll start something for Pesach. I didn't want to start something new now, so to speak. We finished a mimer already last week. I didn't want to start something for Pesach now. So Purim.
It's good timing, right?
This is a Sefer.
It's in Yiddish.
Indeed.
So,
This is a
fun with
Sefer
that.
by the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, whose name was Shmuel, as the Sefer's Teda Shmuel. My son Shmuel was born on the same day, and hence got his name. And the Rebbe Marash, in this Sefer in particular, this one in particular, is a Hemshech, like we're learning on Shabbos and Hemshech Samavov. This is the Hemshech V'kocha for the Rebbe Marash. It's long, it's difficult, it's very succinct. Like whereas the Rebbe Rasham that we're learning Shabbos afternoons, between Nechemiah and the Samavov, the Rebbe Rasham Chassidus, he fleshes it out and he gives a mashal, gives another mashal, and he explains, he fleshes it out. The Rebbe Marash's style in general of Chassidus is very succinct. Everything is just like boom, boom, like straight to the point. And he doesn't typically give very much explanation, so it makes it hard. But in the back of the Sefer, where my bookmark was, and I opened it, it said the word Purim, are some sichas, some talks delivered by the Rebbe Marash's grandson, also known as the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson. So he recounts what happened at the Purim Fabrein. Purim, Tafresh Lamed Zayin, Purim of that year, of the year that this Hemshech V'Kocha, this famous Chassidic series, was delivered. Hat-Hoid Chag Azmur, Arav HaKosh Meir, Rav Shmuel, Gered beim Verbringen kurze Werte. My grandfather, the Reb Marash, that's the author of this Verbringen, right? He spoke briefly, kurze Werte, short words. I think that was just his style. I think he didn't speak at length. Nachher is reingegangen zu sich in Cheder. After that, then after I guess this on Purim at some point, he went into his room. He retreated to his room. Und gesagt zu seine Kinder, and he told his children the following: As hat gehört von Vetter Reb Chaim Avram, he heard from his uncle Reb Chaim Avram, who was a son of the Alter Rebbe, first Chabad Rebbe. Was hat gehört from Reb Moshe, that he, Chaim Avram, the son of the Alter Rebbe, heard from his brother, coincidentally also a son of the Alter Rebbe, heard from his brother Reb Moshe, was Reb Moshe das gehört von Hoid Chak Rabbeinu Azokim, that Reb Moshe heard from the Alter Rebbe himself. When Reb Moshe is noch ben Akim, when Reb Moshe was still a child, he heard the following from his father, the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe said the following: I heard from my Rebbe. Who says it was heard from a person who heard from a person who heard?
Playing telephone here.
Yeah, you have to know. You see, in the Friedrich Rebbe, by the way, is very much was very precise in recounting all the details of stories exactly as they were, and sometimes he even writes like, this I don't know, this I do know. Certain things would write clearly, so every detail is exactly the way the tradition. So you recount there. He heard from him, who heard from him, who heard from him. Everything is recounted in details. So the Alter Rebbe said in turn, I heard from my Rebbe, who was his Rebbe, Harav HaMagid Mezrich, the Mezricher Magid, the following. Now, wish me luck. We'll see what this means over here. Yeah, there's Zach, everything has to have an introduction, even though I didn't really give much of an introduction to this little piece over here. Everything has to have an introduction. The Akdamo zu Teire Shebechsav is their Leuven from the Daled Shittim. Fascinating. The introduction, the lead in, right? What does a Hakadama do? A Hakadama, an introduction, prepares you, gets you ready for what you're about to encounter, what you're about to experience. So the Hakdama, the introduction to Torah Shebechsav, the written Torah, is their Leuven from the Daled Shittim, is the blank white space of the 4 blank lines that precede a Sefer in the Chumash, in a Sefer Torah. You're going to say, but that doesn't apply to the beginning of a Sefer Torah. The beginning of a Sefer Torah starts Bereshis at the top of the page. It doesn't skip 4 lines. So it says in footnote 6, maybe it's referring to the necessary required margin around the page. At the beginning, maybe it's referring to the margin. Right? There's a halacha that they can't just have black space taking up all the black ink taking up all the space of the class. There has to be a certain amount of space. So maybe, but after Bereshis, before Shmos starts, you have to have 4 lines separating from Sefer to Sefer within a Sefer Torah, right? From Chumash to Chumash within Sefer, right? You with me so far?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does the white space mean? White space means nothing. How is white space, empty space, how is that an introduction? So as an or von Helem ha'atzmi, was kenit nisgala werden noisius. Okay, that's very deep. I don't know how to say what it means, but I'll try like this. It's a light, a profound spiritual light, which is so deep that it's hidden, cannot be revealed in letters. Why? Because a letter, any letter, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, pick a letter, is by definition a finite limitation. As soon as you have an Aleph, so it's an Aleph, not a base. If you have a base, it's not an Aleph. Every letter is an expression of some particular finite energy. Now, of course, each of the Chaf base letters, each of the 22 letters of the Aleph base, each letter is a different oir, is a different spiritual light, which is represented and symbolized by the shape of that letter. So what's no letters? No letters is some infinite light that cannot be contained within a letter. As he calls it, Oir Atzmi. It's an essential light. A light that cannot be limited or defined. That's the introduction, if you will. That's the lead-in to Torah Shebechsav, an Oir Atzmi, a profound, essential light that is unbound and unfettered by any type of limitation. Which maybe, it doesn't say this here, maybe that's a reason why an Am Ha'aretz who doesn't understand what he's reading and gets an aliyah to the Torah says a bracha. How do you sing a bracha? You don't know what the words are. You don't know what the Torah means. How do you say a bracha on it? No, because Torah Shebechsav is not so much in and of itself about understanding per se. There's a light in Torah Shebechsav that, in a sense, doesn't matter if you understand or not. I mean, obviously, there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. It's a mitzvah to learn, obviously. But even if you don't understand, you can still say the bracha. So the introduction to that is the white space, what he calls the helem ha'atzmi, an essential hiddenness. It's kind of like how I am always hidden from you, and you are always hidden from me. I mean, physically, I could see you. That's not your essence. That's not your essence. That's not who you are. And I could even perceive certain characteristics that you have. I could say, oh, you're very kind. You're very generous. You're et cetera, et cetera. But those are not who you are. Or I could know what your job is. I could know a lot of things about you. But I still didn't grab who you are at the core. That's beyond characterization. That's beyond description. So he doesn't say that, but maybe that's a little bit what it means also. So that is the introduction to Torah Shebechsav. What's the other part of Torah? Torah Shebal Peh. So what's the introduction to Torah Shebal Peh? Here we have a Gishmak of word. The Akdamot to Torah Shebal Peh is Me'emosai Kayin Nishma. You know this word?
No.
What's the first Mishnah? The second Brachos. Everybody knows this Mishnah. Me'emosai Kayin Nishma Ba'ariv is when do we read the Shema? At nighttime. And the Mishnah says, Mishasha koinim nichnasin lechol b'trumasan. When the koinim entered to eat the truma, eat the food portions that were set aside for them. So he gives the following pshat. This is clearly not the poshet pshat. This is not the contextual meaning of the Mishnah. This is a deeper meaning according to Chassidic perspective. Me'emasai, from when, is miloshin ema. Amosai. Amosai means when, but he teaches here, he explains that Amo doesn't just mean when, it can mean fear, awe, trepidation. Meloshin Amo v'fachad. Not when do you read the Shema, what time on the clock do you read the Shema. By the way, I remember in Morristown when I was in Shiva, Melech Tzvi, the Mashpia, passed away a number of years ago. So, in Chabad, the davening is usually later, so people always want to know, when is Sof Zman Kishma? Because you have to make sure to say Shema before Sof Zman Kishma. Normal people that get up and work early in the morning, you anyway daven in the morning. But in Chabad, the Shachris is later. I mean, they're up early, you're going to make for learning Chassidus beforehand. But it's a very practical question. When is Sof Zman Kishma? When's the last time you have to say Shema? I remember Ramelech Tzvi said by Fabeng once, why is everyone always talking about Sof Zman Kishma? Farvos red man nit wegen Tchilas Zman Kishma used to say. Very simple. Why don't people talk about when's the first time, when's the earliest time you could say Shema? So that's the Pashup Pshat of the Mishnah, right? Me'ein Masai, from when, meaning from what time on the clock could you read Shema? So Taita, we read according to Chassidus, not when do we read Shema, how do I read Shema? In what state of mind should I be? What is my approach to the Shema? So he says, Meloshan Eimo v'fachar. You know how you should read the Shema? Trepidation. Your knees should be shaking. You should be knees clanking together. Total awe, fear, trepidation. Durch dem ken sein kein in the Shema. That's how you read Shema. Shaking, trepidation. The aim of a fachar ruf da roistem Shema Yisrael. That your fear, your awe, your reverence, your trepidation. I keep saying that word. Your fear of God that calls out the Shema. That brings out the Shema Yisrael. And when? Ba'arvis, at nighttime. So Arvin means Erev is Laila, means nighttime. But Erev, if you change the nekudot, is orev. Orev is mesikus, azizkeit, sweetness. How do I read the Shema sweet? with trepidation. Das heißt, as es darf sein, is habcha merira lemiska. Because our avoida, our charge in this world, is to transform Banafik. Maybe this is the connection to Purim. Why did he say this by Purim, by the way? I don't know. Maybe this is why. Because our charge in this world is to turn it over. Banafik is to turn it over, to transform the world. Like the Zohar says, to transform bitterness to sweetness. That's my avodah. That's what I have to do. Take something bitter and turn it over, transform it to sweet. How do you do that? How do you transform something bitter into something sweet? If it's bitter, it's bitter. How do you transform it? Or if them zok there, that for that to teach us how to do this, how to transform bitter into sweet, the Mishnah says Mishloach, from the time, literally from the hour. It's from the time that the koyanim entered to eat the truma. Listen to this. Mishloach, from the time, is also Milosha Vayisha. Like it says by Cain and Hevel. Vayisha Cain, how does it supposed to go?
It's a Shem term.
Shem term. What's the pasuk?
Visha El Havel. It says Machuna.
Vayisha Hevel. He turned to Hevel. So Shah, from the hour, from the time, also means turn. Just make a turn. From them care means to turn. For this turning, what are we turning? Where did the turn take place, so to speak? When the kohanim entered to eat their truma. What's the kohanim mean? It's not just a kohen, it's also you and me. Kohanim is a kohen is anyone who's serving kedusha, who's working and striving for kodesh, for holiness. And achila, they're going to eat. What is eating? Achila is pnimius. Achila means I want to internalize the Shema. I want to internalize the kedusha. It's not supposed to be something that is transcendent and beyond. I need to eat it, like the kohen. If I want to be engaged in my divine service, if I want to be able to transform nighttime, erev, into orev, nighttime is dark. If I want to transform the darkness, the bitterness, into orev, into sweetness, that's by being a kohen. A kohen is someone who's serving on what's on high, and you have to eat it. You have to internalize the Terumas, the truma. We just had Parshas Truma. What does Terumas mean? Das is was is merum von zeh. The things that are above you, that are beyond you, that are removed from you, that are distant from you, you have to bring it into a primis. You have to internalize it. In the language of Chassidus, to bring the makif in primi, to internalize that which is beyond. Here it's interesting. The Akdama to Gemara is, the introduction to Gemara is, footnote 13, Dem Seif felt in the Reshima Sasicha. The end of this is missing. We don't have what he said next. Someone wrote down the Fabrengen, and this part. Der Rebbe Reb Zusha hat Iberkin Chazed die Teile wo gegangen. The Rebbe Reb Zusha of Anapoli would chazer and would regularly repeat this teaching wherever he went, and durch dem hat Megal given to by zendliche Yidin the Avmus Teres, and by sharing and chazering this teaching wherever he went, he revealed the hidden love that every Jew has for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't have any clue what this means, guys. I think I have a little bit of a clue. No, does anyone have a clue what this means? This is a deep little piece over here. With the transform the darkness, the sweetness. That's what happened on Purim, by the way. The whole vart of Purim is v'nafechun. What does v'nafechun mean, right? It doesn't just mean that things work out. Baruch Hashem, there was a decree, and it was very bad. Baruch Hashem, it worked out. That's not Purim. The pasuk says by the gallows, Megillah refers to the gallows as al ha'etz asher heichin loy. That he had the gallows. Haman built the gallows, and he wants to hang Mordechai. Where did he want to hang Mordechai? Al ha'etz, on the tree. Tree means the gallows here, right? Al ha'etz asher heichin loy, that he prepared for him. Yeah, I know. I read the story up till then. I know that you, Russia, prepared the gallows for Haman. Who else did you prepare it for? You prepared it for Haman. I'm sorry, for Mordechai. Oh, Freudian slip. Freudian slip. I know you prepared it for Mordechai. So why does the Megillah? I know the answer already, right? Why does the Megillah say Al ha'etz asher heichin loy, that he prepared for him? Zok the Marsha. Marsha says asher heichin loy, because Haman thought he was preparing it for Mordechai. He's really preparing it for himself. That's the vart of Purim, right? Always asher heichin loy. It's not just Haman wanted to do something bad, and thank God we survived and we're okay. Now we can give Mishloach Manos to each other and discuss what exactly is the mitzvah. That's not it. It's the same exact tree that was prepared for Mordechai, or so we thought. No, that's the tree you're going to hang on, buddy. It's the same exact day, Zayin Adar, that caused Haman to be happy that, oh, it's a good month for me because it's a bad month for them because their leader died. Yeah, newsflash, buddy. Same day is also his birthday. It's the exact same thing. And maybe that's a little bit what he's saying over here. If the transform, there's a transformation process taking place. It's the erev to the orev. It's the night, the darkness, where you can't see anything, that's going to become sweet. It's not just that it will introduce sweetness, we're going to transform the darkness. And how do you do that? You just have to turn. Vayisha, Misha, from the turn, from the moment. Just turn. In a sense, it's as easy as that. Just literally just turn around. Just look in the other direction. How do we do that exactly? I don't know. Maybe you have to fulfill what the Shulchan Aruch maybe said. We quoted the Shulchan Aruch before. I'm sorry, we quoted the Rambam. Drink wine until you become intoxicated. I don't know. But questions, comments? I know it's a little bit of a deep thing over here, but
You drink the wine of Chassidus until you become intoxicated.
the Rebbe said this many times.
Yeah, expected very well.
Well, many times the Rebbe said that Adol Yada is through Limud Chassidus.
Right.
We used to learn the secrets of Torah. There were other years where the Rebbe told people Selachaim, 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 like tons and tons and tons.
1958 or something.
Numerous. That's it.
Right.
Last year, I remember, my Suli comes from Bashir and he says to me, Tati, I learned the Fabrengen from Purim Tashin Chai. It's a famous Fabrengen.
Right. It's out. It's actually written out. Yeah.
Printed.
It's printed, right.
And he said with such like a glow, and I said, good. That obviously wasn't there. But 1958. But it was reported that was like a mamish, like Himmeldike Fabrengen, completely otherworldly.
But it doesn't have the thing, like, does it have the things, because he was like telling people what to do, like.
So there were some years, and
like in between, like during the singing,
copious amounts of alcohol. There were some years. There was even, I think, at least one year when the kavias like this, when Purim was on a Friday. So then the main Purim for bringing was out on Shabbos. Fridays, Shabbos.
Paris Mappa, no.
There were some years he did, some years he didn't.
Later on, he did.
But the main Farbeng was Shabbos afternoon. But
people
at least one year, people came for Mincha, Friday, Purim, Erev Shabbos, and then it was like Selachaim, Selachaim, Selachaim. Then we told people more Lachaim, more before Mincha, or maybe it was after Mincha, before Kabbalah Shabbos, Selachaim, Selachaim, Selachaim. So, but then there were other years when the Rebbe said to a specific person in the crowd, "You will be fulfilling the mitzvah of Adul Yada Behidr for everyone here." And there were other years that the Rebbe said drinking is say L'chaim, and that's it. Not a lot. Just say, and that's it. And you learn Chassidus, not about drinking. So there were different years, different things happened. I don't know what that means, but certainly the inyan is not to drink. It's certainly not the inyan. But it's to try to transform the darkness to light. Questions, comments? Okay. So I think next week, hopefully we'll start something for Pesach. Mr. Shine.
I got a question. Are we gonna do mincha tomorrow or we don't have?
It doesn't seem like